The impeachment trial is on, and if you are watching it yourself, you might be a little bit bored. If you're watching it through the lens of Fox News, though, you might be getting a very different picture of what's actually going on, and that's what they want. So take a look at, this is basically a segment where it's Fox News telling on itself. So Fox and Friends is not hiding at all that they want to be the only source for Trump supporters on this news. Take a look at this little mashup from this morning.
If you watch some of it, there were snippets, and we're showing you the good stuff. It was unbelievably boring.
Yeah, it's basically.
I don't know how people can follow it.
We watched so that you don't have to watch the entire thing. If you watched it, you felt like you were watching opening arguments. Those haven't even started yet.
Right.
This was just the debate over the rules. And I was sitting back watching last night thinking, this is a circus. And then I thought, and then my wife, Jen, corrected me and said, no, at least circuses are entertaining.
I don't think the majority of people watched. I think they just turned to us to be able to summarize it for them because it was so long.
Yeah, we'll summarize it for you. You don't have to actually listen to the information. You'll get all of it from us, wink, wink. Or will you? Or will they just tell you it's too boring? Oh, it's going on for a really long time. First of all, we're gonna have this trial for like a couple days or something. It's gonna be very short, but no matter how short it is, it's always gonna be too long and too boring for them. Like very briefly, you all know all of this, but if you think this story is something boring, take a look at what's really going on. So the president, in a bid to possibly get reelected, turns the screws on one of our allies who's being pressured by Russian-backed separatist forces. Our president, oddly, doesn't have any loyalty to our allies, weirdly doesn't care about the invading force. So he decides to go behind Congress's back and stop military aid that's been appropriated from going to them unless they launch a phony investigation against his domestic political enemies. The whole thing gets caught. He gets caught in it. It becomes a big issue. He gets impeached. Super exciting. The ratings should be amazing. Was that not exciting enough?
Where was the sex? That's the problem.
Well, he got a pass for all the crimes related to sex and the hush money.
Well,
and all
you mean the locker room talk and the boys will be boys and it's just Trump punching back because he's a counterpuncher. All that stuff that you'll say when it's the salacious things that he's actually been involved in. But again, this is a playbook that Fox and Friends has gone to before. Maybe even other shows on Fox. They did it with Mueller. They did it with Ukraine. They kept saying, "Look how boring this is. This is totally boring. Oh, look at the Democrats droning on and on about the same old stuff." And actually, that same old stuff is information. If you want to go and look at the details of any kind of trial that has any kind of significance, from murder trials to the extortion and corruption, all these things that happen and any other daily things, there's boring parts of those trials, but it doesn't mean that they're useless. So everything that happens in Congress is boring to the common folk because it's 6 hours of people droning on in front of a camera. So I think it's pretty obvious that they want you to think, first off, it's boring, there's nothing to it. But you know what, when things happen, when fireworks do happen, you know what they say? These Democrats are putting on this circus of a show. They're performing for the cameras so they can have something to go back and show people on TV of what they've done. Which one is it?
Yeah, damned if
it
you do,
gets
damned if you don't.
exciting and they go crazy on something, or someone gets animated, then they're just performing for the cameras. If they're being businesslike and going through every step of the way of what's happening, oh, it's boring. You don't need to watch this.
Too professional. Yeah. You want something exciting? Rudy Giuliani, you remember him? Yeah, he was off pretending to be a diplomat because the president sent him, and so he hired this guy that was apparently stalking and was thinking about murdering a US ambassador. That is some James Bond stuff. Let's talk about that then. Oh, you don't want to. You don't want to talk about the exciting stuff. You want to pretend it's boring. But here's the thing. Fox News has obviously multiple hours, and depending on when you tune in, you're gonna get a different sort of story. So if you do it during the straight news hours, you might have seen things like Kellyanne Conway sort of hilariously implying that Trump releasing the aid the day after the whistleblower complaint gets to Congress. It's just a coincidence. Nobody's shown it isn't a coincidence. You got the Fox and Friends thing, but then you also have their big opinion shows. And so Sean Hannity, I want you to, when we say state TV, sometimes that doesn't communicate well enough what's really going on. So take a look at how he spent his time while covering the impeachment trial.
Signed the biggest tax cut in history. He cut more burdensome regulation than any of his predecessors. He negotiated major new trade deals people thought could never happen. Mexico, Canada, Japan, our Western European allies, and the big one last week with China, $220 billion for Americans in 2 short years. He pulled us out of the horrendous climate accord. He pulled us out of the horrific Iranian nuclear deal. No more bribing mullahs in Iran.
So he literally was just showing things that he considers accomplishments of the president. It is just raw propaganda. Like in the same way that in Ghostbusters 2, there was that big like flood of just hatred and negative thoughts. It's just a flood of propaganda coming through. And by the way, like I know that it's just a whole bunch of things you don't really look, but I looked at the actual stuff on the list. First of all, he repeats the signed VA choice thing that Trump loves to lie about. Trump's lied over 100 times that he signed it. It was signed under Barack Obama. Hannity doesn't care what's true, so he just repeats it. Ends the war on coal is an accomplishment. What does that even mean? That's just a narrative thing. That doesn't mean anything. One of the things listed there as an accomplishment is fewer Americans on food stamps. Yeah, but they just cut the funding for food stamps. He didn't move them off into prosperity. Nope. He just took away their food stamps. That's an accomplishment, not for the hungry.
These are accomplishments for conservatives. Have you destroyed anyone's life? Have you said you're doing something that you didn't do? All these are accomplishments for these guys. First off, the Ghostbusters reference. I hadn't even remembered that scene. That was a good reference. I enjoyed that. But it's constant how they continue to go through this. Now, how fast was that list flowing, and how much do they really expect our viewers to follow it? We go back to the Fox and Friends before saying, hey, just listen to us. That's him pushing this scroll of quote unquote accomplishments. And then no one's actually gonna look at any of those. They think their viewers are gonna say, okay, millions of new jobs created. Let me look up where that is. What are those jobs created? Is it true in the first place? No, it doesn't matter. Here's a scroll of things that I'm gonna let you think are accomplishments.
It's absolutely insane, but not from Sean Hannity at least, shocking at all, because I remember just a few days ago on his radio show, he had something to say about propaganda. Take a listen to this and remember what you just saw.
It's unbelievable. Great gig, I guess, if he can get it. Lying, propagandizing, I guess pays for people, pays pretty well. So what's that? But these are con artists now. You know, they're just liars. They're just advancing a political agenda.
There are people like that, actually. That was just a few days ago. And look, I share his concern with the grifters. Unfortunately, he's one of them. He's one of the most successful, one of the highest paid propagandists in the entire country.
Well, I know how to disprove your point about Sean Hannity being a propagandist. Remember doing Fast and Furious trials, and remember during Benghazi, and then Hillary Clinton testifying and them talking about emails all the time. Remember them running lists of Obama accomplishments along the side and ignoring what was happening? I remember.
Yeah, remember took us out of that recession and everything. Remember, he listed in his thing of Trump's accomplishments that he killed all these terrorist leaders. Well, there was this one terrorist leader that Obama killed. He was kind of a big deal at the time, like kind of old news now, but big deal at the time. Anyway, and by the way, I just want to put a button on this entire thing by going back a couple of months. And I want you to see how far things have shifted. Here was Steve Doocy back in September when we were still starting to learn the bounds of this scandal.
If the president said, I'll give you the money, but you got to investigate Joe Biden, that is really off the rails wrong.
Yeah, Fox News, that is really off the rails wrong. Your whole thing is off the rails wrong.
If it was really.
But the reason that we covered is because this is how millions of Americans are going to get their news. They're not gonna watch the raw footage. They're not gonna see what's actually going on. It's gonna be filtered either through the just balls of the wall insanity of Sean Hannity, or the slightly easier to digest Fox and Friends. It's all gonna be sanitized. They're gonna try to create apathy. It's not working really. Like, we know that the majority of the country wants him to be removed, but those numbers would be even higher if you didn't have literal state TV operating 24/7 in America.
We've seen, and lastly on this, from me at least, we've seen those studies about how Fox News viewers are the most uninformed or wrongfully informed on most major issues when it comes to anything American-wide. So they point out all the times we're the most watched. Everyone comes and watches us. Hey, only watch us. Don't watch the actual proceedings. Which means you think they don't know that most of their viewers are misled because of their approach. And then after knowing that, saying only watch us because we want to continue to mislead you. So for the whatever small percentage of people who think, oh yeah, maybe they just get it wrong. No, they know when they're getting it wrong. They know the way they're slanting it, and they know that they're actually having an effect on Americans' perspective of what's really going on in their country. And that's, I don't know, if nothing else is anti-American, that definitely is. You're calling yourself the press, and you're making sure Americans are uninformed on the most important issues.
Thank you for watching this clip from The Damage Report. For more content from the show and access to TYT Network members-only exclusives, go to tyt.com/Brooke. Wait, no, it's tyt.com/John. Go to tyt.com/John to sign up.